The air young Kael breathes is never truly clean, not in the sun-scoured, sanctimonious lands of the faithful. Here, in the shadowed folds of the Heretic Domains, it hangs thick, not with the soot of grand, defiant forges, but with a subtler, more persistent hum. The quiet thrum of lives lived deliberately, differently. Coriant is less a fortress, and more a secret whispered into the earth. A small, unassuming haven nestled in a valley that cups it like a fragile hope. Its vulnerability is its most defining feature, a stark contrast to the ironclad certainty of Yahweh's dogma. The metallic tang in the air is not of war, but of shared tools, of small, meticulously crafted instruments used to probe the mysteries Yahweh seeks to obscure. The forbidden knowledge that flourishes here, behind unassuming doors of dark wood and stone, is not the incantation of devils or the blueprint of infernal war machines. It is the careful study of the stars in their courses, the meticulous cataloguing of herbs and their hidden virtues, the unearthing of histories that Yahweh's chroniclers seek to bury deep. These pursuits are deemed heretical simply because they encourage minds to wander beyond the narrow confines of his pronouncements, to question the absolute, unyielding narrative spun by his priests. To think for oneself is the cardinal sin in the eyes of the Celestial Dictator. Kael's earliest memories are woven from the sensory tapestry of this fragile piece. The sharp, clean scent of bruised rosemary and thyme from his sister Lyra's herb gardens, a scent that clings to her hands and clothes like a blessing. The low, earnest murmur of scholars in the Hall of Unction, their voices a gentle counterpoint to the rustle of ancient parchment. The taste of warm, rough bread shared at communal tables, the simple fare made precious by the fellowship that surrounds it. These are the incenses of his childhood, a stark, vibrant contrast to the sterile, fear-laced dogma that wafts from the distant lands of the faithful. The only screams that echo in Coriant's narrow, winding paths are the joyous shrieks of children at play, their laughter a melody so pure and unrestrained, it feels like an act of defiance in itself, a melody that will, in time, be twisted into a sound of unimaginable horror. Lyra, his older sister, is the quiet, beating heart of Coriant's resilience. Her hands, slender and deft, are skilled in the forgotten arts of healing, arts that Yahweh's dogma brands abominations, because they offer solace outside his ordained suffering. She mends broken bones with an intuitive grace, draws fevers with poultices of herbs that his priests declare divine judgment, and soothes troubled minds with a calm that seems to emanate from a place of deep, unshakable understanding. She cultivates plants in hidden, terraced gardens, coaxing life from the valley's thin soil, her knowledge of their properties seemingly instinctual, perhaps a subtle echo of the wisdom of Marbas, the healer of the pit, though Lyra would never know his name, only the truth of the bloom and the root. Her heresy is one of profound compassion, of a wisdom that values life and seeks to alleviate pain, a direct affront to a God who demands suffering as tribute. When she sings the old songs, tunes that speak of freedom and the turning of ages, her voice, clear and strong, can momentarily make even the most jaded heart believe in a future unshackled from celestial oppression. She is a beacon, not of roaring rebellion, but of quiet, persistent life. It is her hands he remembers first, not just tending to the sick of the village, but on himself, long ago. Before the warmth of her family's hearth, his only memories were of cold stone and a gnawing hunger. He was a creature of the periphery, a ragged shadow flitting at the edge of the settlement until she found him. She didn't see a stray to be pitied. She saw a boy with a fever and a wound that festered. Her hands, smelling of thyme and clean linen, did not just cleanse his injury, They washed away the solitude that clung to him like grime. Her parents, their faces etched with the same quiet strength she possessed, placed a bowl of hot soup before him, a simple act that felt more sacred than any of Yahweh's grand sacraments. It was Lyra who spoke his name, not as a label for an outsider, but as a statement of fact, as if he had always belonged there. In that moment, the word brother ceased to be a foreign concept and became the anchor of his young life, a bond forged not of shared blood, but of a compassion so profound it could create family where there was none. From the community's elders, their faces maps of hardship and survival, their voices firm with a conviction born of bitter experience, Kael learns the unwavering truth. Yahweh, the Tetragrammaton, is a jealous God, a cosmic despot whose reign is built upon fear and the meticulous suppression of true understanding. His paradise is a gilded cage, his love a suffocating blanket of control. The heretics, they explain with a quiet dignity that belies the terror of their choice, are those who have seen the chains and dared to imagine a world without them, who choose the perilous, uncertain path of self-determination over the sterile comfort of Yahweh's absolute rule. This narrative of righteous defiance against an unjust tyrant is the bedrock of Kael's young, awakening mind, the lens through which he views the distant, glittering, and terrifyingly uniform lands of the faithful. True transgression, the only unforgivable act in Coriant, is not to question, not to seek, but to surrender one's mind, one's will to the celestial tyrant. The very existence of Coriant with its quiet pursuit of knowledge and healing is a testament to this choice, a small pocket of autonomy that by its very nature challenges Yahweh's claim to absolute authority and truth. The lesson of Yahweh's tyranny, whispered in firelight and studied in forbidden texts, is now seared into Kael's soul with an agony that burns away his youth, his innocence, his world. He is 12. They come on a day like any other, under a sky that begins to curdle, the light taking on a bruised, unhealthy cast. The first sign is not a sound, but its absence. An unnatural silence, profound and chilling, descends upon Coriant, swallowing the children's laughter, the scholars' murmurs, even the rustle of leaves in the valley breeze. It is a void, a pressure on the ears that speaks of something monstrously out of place. Kael, hidden in the hollow of an ancient gnarled oak where he often plays, feels it first as a prickling on his skin, a sudden, inexplicable coldness that has nothing to do with the weather. Then he sees them, figures descending from the bruised heavens, not with the rush of wings or the blare of trumpets, but with a slow, deliberate grace that is utterly inhuman. The angels of penance. Their polished silver armor, intricately tooled with scriptures of judgment, reflects the sickly light of the sky with a cold, pitiless sheen, making them appear as if the sky itself bleeds silver tears of wrath. Their faces, when Kael dares to glimpse them, are masks of serene, sculpted beauty, perfect and devoid of any discernible emotion. But their eyes hold no mercy, no flicker of doubt, only the blank, unwavering certainty of zealots who know their cause to be absolute and their actions divinely mandated. They move with a terrifying, practiced efficiency, their forms radiating an aura of such potent, unyielding conviction that it seems to paralyze the very air around them. This is not an army come to conquer. It is an instrument of divine retribution, precise and implacable. Their terrible beauty and the crushing silence of their arrival are not mere happenstance. They are weapons, designed to unnerve, to disarm, to instill a primal dread long before the first blow falls. They are the perfect, unfeeling mirrors of Yahweh's will, reflecting his judgment upon a world he deems stained. They come for Lyra. They come to extinguish the gentle, persistent light she represents. Kael stands paralyzed by the thickness of their aura. He watches, his small body pressed so tightly against the rough bark of the oak that its pattern imprints on his skin. Terror, cold and absolute, coils in his stomach, a living thing that steals his breath and pins him in place. He sees them, these silver nightmares, converge on his modest home, two of them moving with that same horrifying, fluid grace. Enter. There is no demand, no pronouncement, just the splintering crash of the door. Then Lyra is dragged out, her healer's apron askew, her dark hair falling across her face. Her protest, a small cry of confusion and fear, is cut short by a casual, brutal blow from a gauntleted fist. The sound of it, a dull, meaty thud, echoes in the unnatural stillness. Kael's world tilts. Some people of Coriant, those not paralyzed by the auras, but armed with little more than woodcutters' axes, scholars' styluses, and a desperate courage, try to intervene. A wave of them, faces etched with disbelief and sudden fury, surges forward. It is hopeless. The angels of penance move like a storm of silver and steel, their sacred blades, each one inscribed with glowing, hateful scripture that pulses with an inner light, reaping a harvest of defiance. The blades hum, a low, vicious sound that seems to mock the very air they slice. Kael sees old Manius, the lawmaster, fall, his treasured scrolls scattering like fallen leaves, stained instantly crimson. He sees Elara, who bakes the sweetest bread, cut down as she tries to shield her son. There is no battle, only a swift, merciless culling. They bring Lyra to the settlement's small central square, the place where market day brings laughter and the sharing of news. Now, it is a stage for torment. One of the pilgrims, its voice amplified by some internal mechanism that makes it boom with distorted, resonant power, begins to list her crimes. "Witch!" the voice thunders, the sound waves vibrating through Kael's very bones. Blasphemer, consort of demons. Each accusation is a nail hammered into the coffin of Coriant's fragile peace. She healed the sick without Yahweh's sanction. The angel's gaze sweeps the terrified, huddled survivors. She sang songs of the old ways, poisoning minds with forgotten lies. It gestures to Lyra's herb garden, now trampled underfoot. She dared to cultivate knowledge Yahweh has forbidden, seeking to usurp his divine wisdom, and with each accusation, a calculated act of cruelty. For the crime of healing, they take her hands. Two angels hold her arms, stretching them taut. A third, with the same serene, beautiful face as the others, takes her right hand. Deliberately, methodically, it begins to break her fingers, one by one. The sickening crack of bone, sharp and distinct in the horrified silence, punctuates the litany of her supposed sins. Lyra does not scream, but a choked, guttural sound is forced from her lips, a sound that tears at Kael's insides. He feels a wave of nausea, a desperate urge to vomit, to scream, to claw his own eyes out, but his limbs are locked, his throat constricted by a terror so profound it is a physical weight. This is not mere torture. It is a symbolic unmaking, a brutal assertion that only Yahweh, through his chosen instruments, holds the power over life, healing, and death. Lyra's hands, which have brought comfort and mended broken lives, are being systematically destroyed. A clear message that such independent acts of compassion are an intolerable affront to the celestial order. The litany continues, each word a hammer blow. For the crime of heretical song, for speaking words against the divine will. Another pilgrim, an angel of penance, steps forward, holding a slender iron spike, its tip glowing a dull, angry red from an internal heating element. With a smile that is the most obscene thing Kael has ever witnessed, a gentle, almost beatific expression on that perfect, inhuman face, the angel forces Lyra's mouth open. Kael squeezes his eyes shut. but he cannot block out the sound, a muffled, tearing agony, nor the sudden vile perfume that fills the air, the coppery tang of fresh blood mingling with the sharp, acrid scent of seared flesh. Her songs of defiance, her words of comfort, the very essence of her ability to communicate hope and history, are being brutally extinguished. It is an attempt to erase not just a person, but the cultural memory she carries, the narrative of their people. He tries to rage, to launch his small, insignificant body at their gleaming, hateful perfection, to claw at those serene masks until he reaches something, anything that feels. But the crushing weight of his own helplessness against their paralyzing celestial aura, the absolute, unassailable power before him, keeps him pinned, a spectator to his own unmaking. He is nothing, less than nothing. Then through a haze of tears he doesn't realize he is shedding, he sees his sister, broken, bleeding, her body trembling with unspeakable pain. But her eyes find his. Across the small, blood-soaked square, through the shimmering heat haze rising from the torment, her gaze locks with Kael's. And in their depths, beneath the agony, he sees it. A spark. A flicker of the same unwavering defiance she has always possessed. It is not a plea for rescue. They both know that is impossible. It is something else. A command. Remember this. Remember me. In that instant, her unbroken gaze becomes a brand on his soul, transforming his passive witnessing of trauma into an active reception of her indomitable will. The angels declare her a vessel of corruption, an affront to Yahweh's divine order. Her purification, they proclaim, their amplified voices dripping with a grotesque piety, will serve as a lesson to all who dare stray from the light of the one true God. This purification is a flaying, with sanctified blades, honed to an impossible sharpness and etched with glowing verses of Yahweh's supposed perfection. They begin to peel the skin from her back, precise, agonizing strips, revealing the delicate, obscene tracery of her ribs and spine beneath. Each pass of the blade is accompanied by a chanted litany, a recitation of Yahweh's attributes. Yahweh is justice. Yahweh is mercy. Yahweh is truth. Yahweh is light. The words, meant to inspire awe and reverence, become a sickening, blasphemous counterpoint to Lyra's muffled, tortured sounds and the wet, tearing noise of the knives. The stench is warping, the sweet, cloying smell of her violated flesh, the iron-rich aroma of her blood soaking into the thirsty earth of their home, the very earth where she lovingly cultivated herbs to save lives. Greasy, black smoke rises as they apply their holy brands to her exposed wounds, searing symbols of Yahweh's dominion onto her raw, quivering flesh. These sights, these sounds, these smells, they become the true, unforgivable incenses of Kael's transition from child to something else entirely, something hollowed out and filled with a cold, burning rage. The sacred rituals of faith, the symbols of divinity, are irrevocably twisted into instruments of the most profound sadism, making Yahweh's religion a horrifying death cult in his young, shattered mind. The destruction of Lyra on the very ground she made fertile with life is a calculated desecration, a statement that Yahweh's power can transform any sanctuary into a place of exemplary, unforgettable punishment. They leave her impaled. An iron stake, hastily fashioned by one of the angels from a shattered gatepost, is driven into the earth of the square. But it is not a simple stake. With a final, contemptuous act of cruelty, they twist its upper end into a crude symbol of Yahweh's dominion, his own holy sign, turned into an instrument of obscene torture. Lyra is lifted, her broken body draped over it, a grotesque parody of a martyr, left to die slowly under the fading, bruised light. Her lifeblood, dark and viscous, drips onto the ground where she once knelt to tend her plants, each drop a fresh accusation against the silent, indifferent sky. This is not merely mockery. It is a declaration by Yahweh's legions that they own all symbols, all meanings, and can invert them at will to serve their reign of terror. A terrifying assertion of absolute ideological dominance. The angels of penance depart as they arrived. In that chilling, unnatural silence, their silver forms receding over the hill, as if rising to the heavens, leaving behind a shattered community, the scent of blood and burnt flesh, and a boy whose soul has been irrevocably scorched. Kael does not weep now. The horror is too vast, the injustice too absolute for tears. Tears are a release, a softening, and there is no place for softness in the frozen landscape of his heart. His grief is a shard of ice, so cold and sharp it precludes any conventional expression. He stays hidden, a small, forgotten shadow, until the last echo of their terrible presence fades from the valley. Then on hands and knees, like an animal scuttling from its burrow, he crawls to where Lyra hangs. Her breathing is a faint, ragged whisper against the sudden, overwhelming silence of the empty square. The air is cold now, carrying the metallic scent of her cooling blood. He reaches up, his small, trembling hand barely able to touch hers, now so cold, so mangled. He cannot save her. He cannot offer comfort. He can only bear witness to the final, flickering moments of the life that was the sun of his small world. The paralysis starts to fade. He is lucky to have been out of sight. His hands jitter across her face as he regains a fragment of strength in disbelief, as the last shuddering breath leaves her body under the cold, indifferent gaze of a sky that offers no solace, no sign of divine intervention or even acknowledgement. Something shifts within Kael. The ice in his soul does not melt. It fractures, and from those fractures, something new and terrible begins to sprout. Not blasphemy, for Yahweh is now, to him, a proven evil, and to defy evil is not blasphemy, but duty. No, what takes root is a seed of terrible, righteous fury. A cold, hard knot of hatred so pure and concentrated it feels like the only truth left in a world of lies and torment. He kneels there, in the blood-soaked earth, his sister's lifeless hand still clutched in his, and he whispers a vow. His voice is barely audible, a dry rustle in the twilight. Yahweh. He breathes, the name a curse on his tongue. And his servants, they will pay. They will all pay. A pause then, with a chilling certainty that belies his years. The faithful will learn the meaning of true terror. It is not a hot-headed oath born of immediate grief, but a cold, deep, irrevocable promise, a covenant sealed in blood and agony. He will become a weapon. He will be the scalpel to carve out the cancerous heart of the tyrant God's regime. The memory of Lyra's suffering, the sight of her broken hands, the scent of her innocent blood, the sound of her stolen voice. This is his catechism, his unending, silent prayer for vengeance. His future acts, however horrific, will be framed in his mind as a dark devotion, a continuous ritual in her name. Due to an unseen force he cannot point at, he remains unobserved. What truly paralyzed him? What kept him hidden? How is he unscathed? He cannot think of the answer, because the ordeal is not over. A second unwilling, grotesque act of the divine ensues. As if this personal horror, this extinguishing of a vibrant, beloved life, is not enough to shatter a young soul completely, Kael witnesses a final, brutal underscoring of Yahweh's justice. Through the haze of his grief and the encroaching darkness, he sees a new figure stride into the square. This is no silent angel. This is a witch hunter, a towering figure in sanctified, soot-stained warplate, his face obscured by a grim, beaked helmet, his voice, when he speaks, a booming, amplified affront to the sacred silence of their violated home. This cleric, with zealous guttural pronouncements that Kael cannot fully comprehend, but whose hateful intent is unmistakable, calls down what the faithful term a miracle, a judgment from their merciless God. His heavy, ornate scepter, crackling with an unnatural energy, is aimed at the last remaining, small, defiant knot of other children. They are older than Kael, perhaps, but still children, huddled together near the ruins of the communal kitchen. They dare to stand, small, dirt-stained fists clenched, their young faces streaked with tears and soot, terrified but refusing to break, to kneel before the tide of armored butchers who have stolen their families and their homes. They are the last tiny spark of Coriant's innocent defiance. Kael watches, paralyzed anew, a fresh wave of cold dread washing over the embers of his rage. A gout of searing, white-hot flame erupts from the cleric's scepter, a roaring, hungry tongue of fire that engulfs the children in an instant. There is no escape. He sees their young bodies blacken and split, grease catching fire, their simple, homespun clothes melting, fusing to their flesh. The screams, sharp, high-pitched, inhuman, are cut short as the miracle consumes them, turning them into grotesque, writhing torches before they collapse into charred, smoking heaps. The acrid, cloying smell of sanctified, burning bodies, a stench that is somehow both holy and utterly profane, mingles with the coppery scent of Lyra's cooling blood, etching itself like acid into Kael's young mind. This is not a targeted execution. It is a display of absolute indiscriminate power, a message that Yahweh's wrath extends even to the most helpless, a final, brutal lesson. Injustice. The word is no longer a concept learned from the elders. It is a brand, white-hot and searing, pressed onto his soul. They built something here, something small and good, a pocket of light and learning in a persecuted world, and for that, for the simple crime of existing outside Yahweh's suffocating grace, they are erased. The mingling of these horrific scents, the sacred fire, and Lyra's innocent blood, will forever associate Yahweh's supposed sanctity with the ultimate defilement in Kael's memory. In that singular horrific moment, watching the smoldering remains of children he has played with, the abstract hatred the elders speak of, the distant tyranny of Yahweh, becomes a visceral, personal inferno raging in Kael's chest. It is fueled by a grief so vast, so raw, it threatens to consume him utterly, to burn away the very foundations of his being. He sees now with a chilling, terrible clarity that the faithful are not merely misguided or deceived. They are monstrous, their God a source of ultimate, unadulterated evil, and their faith a license for unimaginable cruelty. Coriant was a place of gentle learning, of healing, of community. It was good, and it is annihilated not in spite of its goodness, but precisely because of it. In Yahweh's cosmos, it seems, such virtues are not only condemned, but actively hunted, extinguished wherever they dare to bloom. This is not a descent into madness for Kael. It is a horrifyingly lucid recognition of the true nature of power in his world, a world where Yahweh's divine order is synonymous with sadistic tyranny. Then a desperate, chilling thought takes root in the ravaged soil of his mind. Lyra, with her profound understanding of healing, her quiet defiance, her intuitive grasp of natural truths that Yahweh seeks to suppress, qualities that perhaps resonate with the subtle ways of a being like Marbas, the demon of healing and hidden knowledge. If such virtues are anathema to Yahweh, so utterly despised that he sends his angels to eradicate them with such theatrical brutality, then perhaps, just perhaps, his adversaries value them. In a cosmos where Yahweh's justice is so demonstrably perverse, an alternative order, one that recognizes true worth, must exist. Marbas, a great president of hell, is known to grant wisdom and heal, and has even aided heretic scientists. Surely Lyra's keen intellect, her spirit that fought so fiercely for their small community, her innate connection to these forbidden arts, has not simply been extinguished. Surely, such a spirit finds recognition, perhaps even refuge, in the shadowed realms below. He might see her again. The conviction settles, cold and hard as diamond, in the furnace of his hatred. It is not madness, not the raving of a grief-stricken child. It is a desperate, radical reordering of his worldview, a chilling sliver of hope found in the heart of damnation itself. This hope, however perverse its source, will prevent him from succumbing to nihilistic despair, but it will also irrevocably lock him onto a path of darkness, a grimdark salvation. His quest for vengeance, then, will also be a pilgrimage towards her, towards a power that understands her value, towards an infernal embrace that might, in its own twisted way, offer a justice Yahweh could never comprehend. He is no longer just Kael of Coriant. He is a promise of pain, a future reckoning, a shard of Coriant's agony, honed to a razor's edge, ready to bleed the world that has bled him dry. But he is not there yet, not even close. His craving transcends mere vengeance. To seek revenge for Lyra, for the slaughtered children, for the ashes of Coriant, that feels like a goal too small, too human for the cosmic scale of the crime. Revenge is a finite act, a settling of a score. But the wound torn into him is infinite, a black hole of agony that can never be filled. What he craves is not to balance the scales. He craves the power to shatter them entirely. He desires a power so absolute, it can answer not just the violence, but the arrogance of Yahweh's obscene cruelty. It is a yearning for the authority to declare what is sacred and what is profane, to become the storm that makes a mockery of a tyrant's light. He sees it now with horrifying clarity. Lyra's gentle arts, the scholar's quiet wisdom, the very heart of Coriant's goodness. These are candles in a hurricane. They were beautiful, they were warm, and they were utterly, pathetically insufficient. Their light did not repel the darkness. It only served to attract the monstrosity that extinguished it. He remembers the scent of Lyra's healing herbs, now forever mingled with the memory of her seared flesh. He recalls the low murmur of scholastic debate, now replaced by the eternal echo of a child's scream. Goodness, he realizes, is not a shield. In Yahweh's creation, it is a vulnerability, a weakness to be exploited and punished. To fight that system with more of the same is to choose to lose again. Therefore, his mind, scrabbling in the ruins of his faith, turns to the ultimate taboo. He needs the fire of a dying star and the screaming void from beyond space, a force of creation and unmaking. He needs the unyielding, pitiless strength of the primordial abyss. He needs the kind of power that does not argue, but simply is, a truth backed by the force to make it so, and he knows where that power resides. It is whispered about in the most forbidden texts, the ones the elders of Coriant kept hidden not out of fear, but out of a deep understanding of their terrible cost. It is the power wielded by the true masters of the unseen world, the ancient sovereigns of will and shadow, who scheme within the Obsidian Courts of the Seven Headed Serpent. They are the ultimate adversary, the primordial darkness against which Yahweh first defined his light. To Kael, they are no longer devils to be feared, but a potential source of patronage. the only force in the cosmos with the will and the might to challenge God on his own terms and win.